Well, this is our last week in Brussels before the summer recess, and that allows us a few weeks in each of our constituencies to engage with not only yourselves but also to spend some quality time with our families as well. And it's also a time for us to reflect over the last few months about the kind of activities that we have been involved in, all too numerous to mention. For myself, when I reflect about being in Palestine and the international solidarity that we have shown to the Palestinian people, also in Argentina, making sure that our international solidarity was demonstrated as not just a radical buzzword, but progressive internationalism, of course, is the remedy for regressive neoliberalism. I also went to Athens along with Piers Doherty, and there we witnessed the people of Greece, and all of us as MEPs have been quite exercised about what happened particularly this weekend, but in the lead up to this weekend, looking at democracy in action in the first instance, and then see the obscene behaviour of the German government and the Eurogroup, of which the Irish government played a very proud role in destroying democracy, and all that we're left with at the moment is the ashes of it. And let's see how we can collectively in the left try to build it up again, but I think there is a lot of challenges ahead. I went to Lampedusa a few weeks ago, and as we all know, the Mediterranean Sea has been turned into a massive cemetery. And it was very disturbing, to say the least, to talk to many, many people who have been rescued at sea and to be put in reception centres, only then to find themselves not getting safe and legal access into the countries that they are looking to get to see their loved ones, so some of them are already located there. There are many other things that we've been doing, particularly for groups and organisations. We've been involved in numerous delegations, bringing people over here. I said when I was elected I was pledging to bring you to Europe and Europe to you, and I've been involved with organisations trying to get them access to EU funding, trying to maximise the understanding of the bureaucracy of this place, and working as hard as all the rest of us have been doing to try to make sure that in the time ahead, when we come back in September, that the delivery that we have been demonstrating to use in our month-on-month report here as our way of being accountable to you, that we will continue to do that, and hopefully that gives you some kind of insight into the work that we're involved in. So I will hand you over now to Liadh, and she will give you a little update of what she's been doing.
It's Martina. Well, they've asked Carthy agus fáilte roimh go dtí an agrán seo an fishery orpach sa Russia. Just a quick update, I suppose, on what I've been doing. This week it's going to be all about budgets again, where the 2016 EU budget is being negotiated as I speak. There will be shortfalls in it, and I'm hoping to put in a lot of amendments that will shore up some of the gaps that are there. I think in about 2 weeks' time I'm going to New York on a UN delegation to address debt issues, really. It's an economic debt conference, so that should be quite interesting. And I think it's also very relevant that we are launching the Fair Recovery document in Ireland. I was there yesterday in East Limerick and all around, and it's being launched everywhere as I speak, nationally. And it's about addressing the inequalities that we see in rural Ireland, as well as obviously the cities. We're focusing on childcare, housing and healthcare, which are the main priorities and the ones that we felt that needed to be addressed as a matter of urgency. So Tuairteáigear sin, Chomala sin, Martina and I, and it's quite fortuitous actually today that Joe McHugh came out and said that he is now seeking to extend the derogation Arantanga Gaeilge until 2021. I think this is horrendous of the Irish government, and it just again shows the lack of care and the lack of political will in terms of implementing an Irish language strategy of any real value to the Irish people. The Bhualas Héanagus Martina, we met with the head of the European Secretariat on regional and minority language, the Charter of Rights, and talked about how we can implement legislation and further the St Andrews Agreement that was there. So Martina and I will plough ahead with that. We have a huge body of work to do, and we're going to hit the ground running again in September. I'll be meeting Simon Coveney face to face. I did meet him last week in Strasbourg for lunch, but it was a very casual meeting. but at least I managed to get him to commit to meet me to discuss the common fisheries policy and to pin him down on some of the critical issues that are concerning the fishing industry at the moment. So Lacuna Day in September, we'll have lots more to fill you in on. It's never a dull moment here in Brussels, and my God, but we are all looking to get out the gap at this stage. We've only another 2 weeks left, which is why we're probably all smiling.
I suppose all of you at home are sick of me talking about water at this stage. You're probably sick of talking about water even at home and all the protests. But finally, after 10 months of hard work, the Right to Water Citizens Initiative report that I wrote is coming to the plenary in Strasbourg to be voted on by all MEPs. So I'll be looking for all of you at home to lobby your Irish MEPs, particularly the Fine Gael MEPs, given that their group tried to postpone this vote at committee level. We don't know, will they try the same again in Strasbourg? So I'll be in touch with all of you to try and get you to put the pressure on Irish MEPs to make sure that the Boylan Water report passes in Strasbourg in September. Which has very important measures about TTIP and around the privatisation, which we all at home fear that Irish Water is being set up for privatisation. Also, in the last number of weeks, I've had a delegation over of young people around youth unemployment. So they met with the Commission, discussed their experiences of the Youth Guarantee in Ireland, how it was failing young people. It was putting them into very poor jobs, poor contracts, precarious type working conditions. So it's very interesting to hear that a recent report of the Court of Auditors found that they have not yet to see one single young person actually get a job from the Youth Guarantee. So we'll be following up on that in the future. I suppose, and finally then, I also did a bit of work exposing Fine Gael and their dubious bedfellows in their EPP group, the Fidesz MEPs who are from Hungary, and their leader Viktor Orban, who shows, I suppose, the same contempt for democracy that we've seen the European institutions show Greece over the weekend, in that when they brought in measures that wanted to ban gay marriage, wanted to ban homeless people from sleeping on the streets, and when their constitution overturned it, Viktor Orban then introduced legislation to overturn the High Court from changing the constitution. So that's the type of, I suppose, respect for democracy that makes up the EPP group. So I was very happy to expose them on that, and I'll hand you over to Matt now.
Lynn, last week in Strasbourg, the European Parliament voted for what was a very bad report on TTIP. Unfortunately, our government representatives actually supported that TTIP report, but that doesn't mean that the battle stops. The negotiations are ongoing, and the campaign to ensure that any trade agreement between the EU and the US is a fair trade agreement continues. We're organising an information seminar in Dublin next Monday afternoon that we would encourage people to attend if at all possible. And we're going to continue to ensure that any deal protects Ireland's most vulnerable sectors, including our agricultural sector, that our workers' rights are protected, that our environmental standards are enhanced and not diminished as a result of any deal. It's going to be an uphill battle, and we're going to continue to ensure that the voice of ordinary citizens, not only in Ireland but across Europe, is heard. This has been a black week in many respects for the European Union. The way in which the European institutions and member state governments, led primarily by Germany, but unfortunately with the tacit support of our own government at home, basically bullied and cajoled and forced the Greek people into what is, in effect, a non-sustainable agreement. We want to commend our comrades in Syriza for standing firm, for doing what our government have never done, and that is putting the interests of their citizens first and foremost. In the schoolyard, there's only one person worse than the bully, and that's the person who stands behind the bully and laughs and sniggers and encourages them on. That's the role that the Irish government have decided to take. And the reason they did it was not for any economic reason, it was for a political reason, because they wanted to send a very clear political message to the people of Europe that you have it their way or no way at all. But I think that Irish people and people right across the European Union are beginning to recognise the very fundamental undemocratic nature of what this European Union has evolved into. The very foundations on which this was supposed to be about, of a collective of member states working together in the common interest, has been blown apart by what is now a two-tier Europe that is dictated by special vested interests at the expense of ordinary citizens. we're going to be moving on to the summer break, but make no mistake about it, we in Sinn Féin intend to ensure that the absolute corruption that lies at the heart of some of the decisions that are made in Europe are exposed for all to see. That's our role. We, after 1 year on, feel that we've been doing as good a job as we possibly can, but our work is far from done, and we're going to continue to do that right into the next semester, and we look forward to providing you with our reports of our ongoing efforts. Gormila Maigov.